All right, so linear perspective, our formal linear perspective series now, and I want to talk about tools that I use for these demonstrations, these exercises, and or these lessons, however you want to call it. And let's just get started with what I'm using. I like to use marker paper. Now you can use any paper you want, really. You can call it marker paper, you can call it layout paper, or you can just use drawing paper, sketch paper. And it comes in two sizes, the 14 by 17, which I use a lot of time for just my notes. When the notes that I had as a student, we used marker paper that I keep. That I base a lot of my lectures and exercises on. And it's a wonderful paper. It comes in 14 by 17 inches, and it also comes in 19 by 26. So I'll use probably both sizes. You could use anything you want. You could use newsprint, you could use white sketch paper, drawing paper. Marker paper is nice. It's kind of like what's bond paper, kind of like Bristol, but it's very, very thin, and it's a little bit, it's not as smudgeable as some of the other just drawing papers, which is nice for perspective. Since you're sliding that ruler around, you're moving triangles around a lot of times, that can get difficult. So if you have the means and funds to do it, pick up some of this. 14 by 17 is a decent size, and then later on you might want to go bigger with me to get more minute detail when we can expand a little bit larger to the size of the drawing board here is about 19 by 26. And I'll probably always, if I use this size paper, I'll always have probably a white cover sheet on top of the board just to make it a little bit more manageable in terms of the camera. So this is marker paper or layout paper. Just remember, it's very thin. It's not very thick at all. And it's a little bit retardant to smearing. It's easier to erase as well, which I like when you want to erase, little light lines or little ticks or marks that you don't want. So, and the brand I use is Canson here, French, I believe, marker or pro layout paper, and it's just brilliant white or just white, if you will. So that's that. And then let's talk about some of the tools here. I use triangles a lot from time to time. You've seen that. Now, going a little bit deeper, what you're going to need, number one, make sure they're transparent, or they could be a little smoky like this one, meaning that it's got a little bit of a gray tint to it. They tend not to be so reflective on camera, which is nice. You can see that. You're going to need a 45 degree here by 45 degree by 90 degree here. So 90 degrees, 45 degrees, 45 degrees. You're gonna need one of those for sure. You gotta have that for formal perspective. Now I've got two here, one's smaller and one's larger depending upon when I need and use it for. So you need that for sure. You need those two. So 45, 45, and 90. And you also need a 30, 60 degree by 90 degree triangle as well. These two are very important. You can't skip on these. So you need a 45, 45, 90, and you need a 30, 60, 90. That's very important for setting up measuring points, reference points at 45 that we need for perfect cubes or rooms. And we also need that to set up and show you our cone of vision at 30, 30. And or also certainly total at 60. So 30, 60, 90 triangle, 45 by 45 by 90. Now I've got a couple of measuring rulers here. The first one is the Architect's measuring ruler. It's nice. It's kind of got this triangular device here on the side, and it's got different measuring devices. Get the Architect. See where it says Architect? Hopefully you can see that. The Architect's ruler. It's great for measuring when you need it or scaling when you need it. I like this one a lot. I also use this one. You'll see me use this one probably even more. Notice it's also see-through, and it's got nice grids on it for all kinds of measuring demarcations that you need. And this one is 18 inches, 2 inches by 18 inches, and you can flip it and continue to read it in many different directions. So this one is nice too as well. So triangles, two measuring devices, And then the T-square, which is really nice here, you're going to need, and I've got an older one here. It looks like, well, it's made in the USA, but it's got a German company to it, Deitzken. Sorry, all you my German audience out there if I mispronounced that. My apologies. But it is made in the, looks like it's made in the USA. Anyone will do. A metal one is nice. If you can have one with measurements, it's great. I prefer the measurements to be on the rulers, but it's up to you. Now this slides on the drawing board, and see how it slides nice and neat and perfect. Now you want your drawing board to be 90 degrees, and of course mine has metal edges on the sides here and here, right? And the reason why is you get a nice perfect 90-degree edge, so you can slide this across up and down, and then you can also put your measuring device on it to measure or scale or you reference. But you can also, what's even nicer for true verticals is you just connect your triangle to your T-square, and you can move that up and down at different particular angles later on as you need. And I'll demonstrate. We'll be doing that quite a bit as well. And the drawing board that I have, you guys have seen that before. It's a nice balsa wood one. It's very light and very sturdy. And it is hollow inside with some cardboard filling to make it much lighter for carrying. That's really nice. I'll put these to the side. So I have a nice little brush. You could use any kind of old brush that's not dirty, that hasn't been, used paint with. So I've had this one for quite a bit. This is an Alvin, but really any old brush will do as long as it's not dirty, just to brush off your material. And then what I use for most of my drawings you're going to see is a mechanical pencil. These are wonderful. I've had with this one for a long time. It's actually kind of broke here, but it's really wonderful to use as you just pop out the lead here. It comes in lead cartridges like this one, and they just pop in with this claw, and it's hollow inside, and you put it back in, and then you can sharpen it. Now I have 2H here and B, and those are plenty. I will probably use the B most of the time for video because I need it to show up more. You could probably get away with using the 2H to keep it really, really light. You want to make most of your lines lighter than mine. Mine have to show up more so you can actually see them, so you can see what I'm doing, so you can follow along. So I have to draw mine a little bit darker. Now, the mechanical pencil comes in, again, it comes in different softnesses and hard cartridges. That's what I was trying to say. And of course, when you open it up, there we go. It comes in many different, has many different in there. It will last you quite a bit of time in different arrays of softness and hardness. That thing is a little hard to close. There we go. So what I think is really wonderful, the mechanical pencil sharpener is a tube, and it only really works for mechanical pencil leads. And let me open it up so you see that. And so it's hollow inside with this grinding device in through here, and it locks on. You take it and you put it back on top. It's just a very simple device. You'll feel how it locks in, and then it turns like so. Okay, and then this little device here, this little pad right here, that's for dipping into your pencil lead after you've sharpened it to get off the rest of the charcoal shavings. I'll show you that. So we'll take our lead here, and it's not too terribly sharp. You have to be careful not to break it. If you break it, don't worry. But it's not too terribly sharp. You put it into the shaft there, and you'll feel it when it locks into that groove. If not, it won't sharpen. But then you just start to run it around. You see I've already broken it. That's a good lesson. So just to show you that they can be very sensitive. So you'll break a few until you get the right length that you want, until it's a little bit sturdier. So I'll put it back in, and then they'll run it around. And you can hear it kind of crunch. And that's just grinding the pencil onto the side of that metal stump, that grinder. And I'm also twisting my fingers as I sharpen. And I'm running it around like that, and I keep working, keep working, keep working. You'll get the hang of it eventually, but it gives you a really pretty fine point. Sometimes it gives you that little shaving there, and what I'll do is I'll dip that in, get that off, and that means I've just got to go back in and keep on sharpening that lead away, working and twirling, and look how nice. And that's like a spear now. You can You can spearfish with that. No, you really can't, but you get the idea. Look how sharp that is. That's really nice and sharp. That's what you want. You just have to be careful when you draw. You push down too hard on that point, it breaks immediately. It breaks a lot for me, but that's okay. It just happens, but it still keeps you pretty sharp. Now, here's a tip. When you're using it, see how long it is still? What I like to do is pull it in a little further. It makes it a little stronger. So about like that. Make sure that you can, hopefully you can see that. Yeah, you can. And so it's a little bit stronger. If you draw with it way out like that, like so, that's going to break pretty quick. The tensile strength is not as strong, so you can latch that back in. Then of course when it gets dull, you repeat, and you can keep going. Now the stuff, the shavings are concentrated inside, and over time you can dump this out, or you can keep it and use it as powder graphite for drawing. Powder graphite is a wonderful artist material, very, very greasy and soft and milky, and you can get this atmospheric quality to it. So that's the mechanical pencil. If you don't have mechanical pencils, you can use regular graphite pencils, and I would suggest any brand will do. I would get the wood shaft and sharpen it again with just a turning sharpener. Let me see if I have, yeah, here it is, over here to off the camera a little bit, and you just sharpen right inside there like you probably know. Get H's or 2H's or 4H's. Get very, very light pencils. Don't get 2B's, 4B's, 6B's. HB is probably the darkest you want to go for now, okay? I prefer the mechanical pencil when I'm using linear perspective really hardcore, and I think it's a wonderful tool. I love the red and blue pencils. They're wonderful from Prismacolor, and I'll use these to distinguish some difficult line passages. So they have a red and blue in the same pencil. They're pretty cool. These are pretty tiny, and so I just have my trusty extender that goes in like so, and then you can draw with them and extend their life a little bit. So the red and blue pencil was really nice. If you want to, I'm going to use this. Whoops, I'm going to use this for my video so you can distinguish a little bit better what's going on. Of course, the erasers, you can use a number 2 pencil as well if you've got it. Any firm eraser or a kneaded eraser will work pretty well. The eraser shield is great for tiny erasing in little delicate areas. Again, if you want to lay down the eraser shield and make, you just want to erase out a little tiny area, you can lay down the eraser shield and erase over that. It's great. And then of course the kneaded gummy eraser, right, that we have. Then get yourself a really nice compass. You're going to use this quite a bit I'll use it for my demonstrations to show you the cone, and you can do some measuring with it, but it opens up, and they come in various sizes. I think you can get away with something that it opens up to probably 6 or 7 inches. I think this is. Let's see what that is. It is about, let's see, 4 and 7, almost 7 inches in width. So that will give you about a 14-inch diameter circle. So that's pretty. That's just probably about as big as you'll need. A great compass. I'd spend a little bit money on a good one, and it will last you a long time. And of course, the compass, one end is the metal pointy end, and the other end is the pencil end, and you can buy replacements for both of those. And these little legs can turn when you need them. Most of the time, we'll just use them straight as well. So you see the pencil extender. I like the Alvin drafting dots just for a cleaner look for tape when I take down my drawings. But any kind of old artist tape will do, I think, and work just fine for you. So that's what I'm using in terms of my materials. And then lastly, I want to introduce to you one of my favorite books on perspective. So if you're looking to get one, I think a definitive version is the one I had as a student. I've still got it. And let me bring the camera in so you can see it a little bit closer. Is Perspective for Artists, and the author is Rex Vicott Cole, a British artist working in the 20th century, I think early 20th century a little bit. So not too terribly long ago. It's a little old, but I think it's a wonderful book that I use as an addendum to my instructor, my professor Gary Meyer at Art Center College of Design. and other artists that I've admired that I've picked up perspective techniques from. And I think it's really wonderful. So I'd get yourself a copy. It's not too terribly expensive. You can find it on Amazon. And again, I don't get any monetary kickback from any of this, just to make sure that you understand that. So I've used this as a student. I think I bought another copy, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, because the other copy got pretty old and ratty. And I use a lot of these ideas in my demonstrations, and you'll see that. I think also too that it's like a perfect textbook for a course. You can see where I still make notes. And I don't think, though, when I was a student a long time ago in a land far away, that I would have gotten everything out of it had I not had an instructor. So my job is to be your guide, be your mentor through linear perspective, especially formal, obviously in simple form and relaxed, and then highlight some of all this reading. The reading is dry, it's supposed to be, but it's pretty straightforward. But I don't think that every notation here is completely accessible. It may not give you as much as you need. I mean, how did he get some of that? And so that's why a thorough training and demonstration idea where you train with the mentor and you draw along with the mentor, I think is very important. That's how I was trained, and I learned this stuff backwards and forwards so much I forgot. But the great thing is I can come back, go look at my notes, come back to this book and refresh myself and get ready to present and give back to my students here at NKU and to you guys also out there in YouTube land. So wonderful book. Again, it's Perspective for Artists. The artist name is Rex Vicot. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Cole. And it's got several tiny little illustrations, and we'll manifest some of this information into our lessons as well. So it's an option for you. I would use. It's not very expensive, and again, I do not get any funds. This is not an advertisement. This is an endorsement of this book, and I use it quite extensively for times when I have a certain problem. Perspective is so complex, but we understand it pretty well, that we understand it intuitively, but there are times when you might get stuck in a certain passage, and you can probably come back through the four simple rules of perspective and beyond and find out what you're needing for a certain passage. It's actually much less difficult than you think. There's just levels of complexity, and sometimes you just need a little refresher, and this would be a good handy encyclopedia, I think, for you. Okay, so that's that. So there you go. Those are the materials that I'm going to be using throughout the formal perspective lessons, how we see, and then of course beyond that. So with that in mind, why don't we go ahead and get started on some exercises, and we'll start out with some simple referencing techniques using one object of the same size, and we'll continue to reference. So let's go to that. Okay, let's get started. So with exercise number 1, we're going to look at and draw referencing simple objects of the same size and same proportion in perspective, so that even though they will perceive to be smaller and have a different scale or size, they will actually be the same size, and that's important. That's what perspective can give us. So exercise number 1 is referencing and scaling of simple objects, and right now we're in the referencing and scaling section of our lessons. Okay, so let's get started. So I've got an image here in my drawing of a little Yoda down here. We're going to imagine that there we go, back in focus, that Yoda is going to be picking up and moving objects, and these objects are going to be lightsabers. So we're going to have a lightsaber, and we're going to move that lightsaber around and reference it from a referencing point and move it up and down and around, and show you how one simple referencing point can be used for with other referencing points to show and to give us the scale of one object all over the place in our composition. All right, so I'm going to start out here by determining just randomly with my drawing T-square here. That's nice and aligned to the edge of my board here at 90 degrees, so I have a good 90-degree angle. I'm just going to give a horizon line, and it's also going to determine our eye level. So I'm going to go here now and give this line, which is an expression of now our horizon line and our eye level. So I will label that HL. Okay, HL here, and also EL, which is eye level, right in through here. So we have now separated in this particular study now sky plane from the ground plane. So sky plane above the horizon line and ground plane now below the horizon line. So let me make sure that that's nice and dark so you can see that, and I'll kind of try to keep my head out of the way. Sometimes it can get in the way there. Do the best I can. All right, so we've got that determined. So now the first thing that we want to figure out is where do we want our first one to be? Well, we'll put our first one probably somewhere down here in our composition, and I'm going to go ahead and give us our center of vision and put our vanishing point on that center of vision. Remember that my paper is 14 by 17, so I'm going to put the vanishing point right in the middle at 8.5 inches in, right there, and just label it VP, right there. And so there's our vanishing point. And of course, I'm eliminating our center of vision here. This is our eye line, which right now, since we're in 1 point, is also our horizon line. And of course, I'm eliminating our station point and also our cone of vision. Even though it's there, it's always there. Remember, our 4 fundamentals are always with us. Our center of vision, our eye line, our station point, and our cone of vision. But I'm just going to simplify things a little bit for now. All right, so let's imagine that we've got a diminishment, and I'm going to use that diminishment, let's say right here. So I'll put a diminishment down for our first object, and it will be a it'll be a lightsaber, and we're going to just pretend like our lightsaber is about, I don't know, there's about 4 feet when they're lit and the energy, the kyber crystal thing is energized. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to determine a 4-foot length that I want, and it's arbitrary and it's random. And so I'm going to put it about right here, my composition right there. And I'm going to say a 4-foot lightsaber will look laying down about like that. Now I could stand it straight up and then turn it over, but I'm just going to simplify that. So we're going to put it about right here in my composition. So there's going to be the length of that lightsaber. Now it's got that little handle that a lightsaber has, so I'm going to draw that first. And so it's going to be a simple kind of 1-point tube-like form. So I'll draw a little circle there for our holder, and then we're going to go back to, whoops, the tape came off. We're going to go back to the vanishing point a little bit here along the edges. So shoot for the vanishing point there, line up my triangle in this case here, in here a little bit, and I'm going to make the holder, the handheld holder part, about the length of it about right here. It looks pretty reasonable to me, about right in through there. And then I'm going to tighten it up, make it a little darker so you can see it there and also there. And of course it has a little handle where it turns on and ignites at the top here. That's kind of got ridges in through there, so we'll put some on there, and these lines will go back to the vanishing point here. Just give a little detail, and also something kind of at the bottom too to give a little visual weight. Just another circular form, since it's in 1 point, more like a circle. All right, so there's the holder for it. Maybe the little button can be here. And let's say the length now is where I made the mark here. So I'll put that little dot, and that's what we're going to go for. I'm going to take my blue pencil, and just make it look like it's glowing just for the sake of fun. So I'll take my blue pencil and say there's the length of my form. They're kind of like rods or tubes or cylinders, but now we're just going to make them lightsabers because we can. We'll just give it a thematic. We can. All right, so there we go. So that's in perspective. Now we have a 4-foot lightsaber now. So I'm going to say that's 4 feet right in through there. And we want to project it now somewhere else and use it as this one as a referencing guide for placement anywhere that we want in our composition. And so we can start to imagine that Yoda is going to start to move it around using the Force. Maybe he's training Luke or whatever's happening. And so we're going to move it all over by gravity and the Force, right? All right, so let's think about another position that we might want to use this lightsaber. What if we take it and move it forward some? How would we do that? Well, if I say I want the end of it here to be maybe right about here, how would I do that? How would we manage to do that and also keep it in our composition? Well, I'll show you. So we'll put a little dot here where we think we want the tip of the bottom to be, and then we know that it's always going to be going to the, for now, the 1 point vanishing point. So we've got that, okay? Now what we can do is I'll take my longer ruler from the bottom of the first lightsaber through the dot there, through the point there. I'm going to be all the way just on the edge. That's going to be our reference point right there on the edge. And I'll put reference number 1 right there, okay? And so we can do the end of the lightsaber here to our reference point here. Remember, that's 4 feet through here, okay? So what we wind up with, this line here becomes a 4-foot lightsaber in distance. That's the same, this length is the same length together. They're the same length of proportion. Now what we can do is we can take the tip of our little holder here, go back to the reference point as well. I'll show you that. Boom, right there, make a mark where it ends, and that becomes the handheld part of the lightsaber. Now we have a lightsaber that Yoda is moved from one position to another. Let's draw that out, sketch that out, and see how we can control now scale and proportion of an object, referencing an object of the same length. So now I can draw the handle out here. There we go, put the ridged mark in through there. And then we have, of course, the blue part, or the lip part, and that goes back to the vanishing point here. There's the tip. And so again, we use our reference point to control depth, dimension, but really scale. Vanishing point gives us depth, but we control that scale, which really works nicely for us. So let's use lightsaber number 2, which is also a 4-foot lightsaber. We just moved it from here to here, so that was 1. Now it's been moved to position 2. Let's move it now someplace differently. Let's move it a little bit, maybe even more forward, maybe somewhere up here. So I'm going to put a dot maybe here, where this will reference the back end in through there. And so once I do that, I know I want my lightsaber to be somewhere right in through here. Now I can say, okay, from the vanishing point through this point here, I'll draw a construction line, a diminishment line there. Now I can use another reference point from the back end of this lightsaber through and over to the horizon line or eye line there. That becomes reference point number 2. So reference number 2. This really plays off of rule number 1 in perspective, that all parallel lines in nature or man-made, as long as they're level, will recede and diminish to one single point, right? And then rule number 2, which is the rule of the vanishing point, also on the horizon line. So I can take now this distance here, this ending point, go to the reference point, or from the reference point out, as you wish, and there's the length of our new lightsaber. Right there, this smaller area and through here. Then we can take this measurement, go right to our referencing point, and it's really pretty easy once you get the hang of it, and you can start to really reference any kind of simple object or figures that you want very, very quickly. So now we can take the tip of the lightsaber and we can go to back to the vanishing point here and here and kind of curve that over. It's really pretty tiny. Look how tiny that gets. Look how diminished that gets pretty quickly back in space. So that's 4 feet back at this distance away from us, and I'll put a little glow there for the lightsaber. And now we've got lightsaber number 3. 1, 2, and 3 right there. And so we've already referenced now 3 using 2 reference points. Of course, we started with a vanishing point and 1 lightsaber. So now let's do something else. Let's move let's move our lightsaber over a little bit. Let's keep it the same distance or the same length here, but let's just move it over to left or right. If we just move it left or right or up or down, we don't change any depth. If we move away from into the horizon line or away from the horizon line or reference point, we change the depth, and it will actually look either larger or it will look smaller. So let's move it over a little bit, and we'll just take a horizontal line here, and we'll do the same thing at the tip here of the lightsaber, over and over. And now we've got the correct sizing just moved over. So our picture plane here is infinite in all directions. If we're just moving up or down or left or right, again, the size does not change. So we can now take from the vanishing point and place our lightsaber anywhere we want. Let's move it maybe right about here and a little bit closer, right in through there. So I draw from the vanishing point out, and where they line up here, make that a little bit darker. There and there, here and here, that is the length of the lightsaber pushed over more to the left, right, and then to the left of our center of vision. Now I can take just one little mark from our holder here of our lightsaber, pop it on through, and now we've also got the measurement for our holding part of the lightsaber, and even the little small ones, you can go down to even more minute detail if we wanted. Maybe the top is about right there. Line that back up. That tape is sticking on me. I think I'll take it off a little bit. And so now we're good to go with our tube. So I can draw my tube holder, the handle of the lightsaber, right through here, and then back, use a hard edge, line it up with the vanishing point. And you can see how quickly this becomes very creative. And this can happen very quickly on a drawing or a painting, and you don't have to be so rigid with the sketching. We're being formal here, but this can happen very quickly with just a few marks, a hard edge on a painting or a drawing, and you make very light lines or even no diminishment or convergence lines. And really quickly you get what you need for maybe a large scale drawing or painting. You use string. You just set up a scale that you want. As long as you have your horizon line, your eye line, you can set up with string, etc., and so on, and bring about some nice resolution to diminishment and scale and so on. So remember, here we change depth with 1, 2, and 3, and lightsaber number 4, this is 1, 2, 3, lightsaber number 4, we did not. All we did was move it from the right over to the left, and I'll put a little color here. Give that a little color down and through there. So it's lit and active, and again, Yoda's, the idea is for him to be moving these around even further. All right, so let's do something else now. Let's take another lightsaber and let's see what happens when it levitates. These are all now have been sliding on the ground. So we have lightsaber number 1, number 2, number 3, and then we push one back over number 4. Let's actually levitate it and raise it off of the ground some and see how that works out for us. So from our points here and our back point here, we're going to raise now verticals from lining up my T-square. I've got my T-square lined up against my drawing board, and I'm going to run a vertical from right here, the end of the lightsaber. I'm going to run a vertical up, all the way up, just as high as I want it for now. And I'll do the same thing with the bottom of the dot, where the point meets the length there. The horizontal line meets the diminishment line from the vanishing point there. And I'm going to bring it up. And I'm just going to bring it up as high as right now as I want, right in through here. Okay. So now what's going to happen is Yoda is going to raise up this lightsaber, and we're going to push it up some. We're not going to push it in the sky plane yet, but we're going to keep it kind of still in the ground plane, but a little bit higher, maybe closer to 3, and show you what happens when 1 is pushed closer to us and we have 3 much further back. So what we'll have now is I'll say, let's end how high we want it about right here. So I'll put a little dot there. Okay, remember that's 4, we're making 5 now. 5 will be here. And then we'll take a line from the vanishing point to our little point there, number 5, right there. Okay. And the end of this mark, as it gets higher, will be right there. So we're getting more foreshortened as we're getting up higher, getting up to our eye line, and also to our horizon line, since right now we're in 1 point perspective, and our eyes are locked onto the eye level. Remember, we're not looking up, we're not looking down in 3 point, but we're at 1 point or 2 if we want to swivel our head, which we could do. I could add vanishing points, but we won't for now. Okay, so the next thing I want to put is to get the demarcation of this little depth of the end of the holder. And so I'll take that little point there, and I'll bring up a line here, quick line to reference that. There it is right there in perspective. And so now we're ready to draw our next lightsaber that Yoda has moved up to give us that demonstration. So I'll just use the center point as a true place to put that, since it's about center for our holder. So the thickness is the same. Of course, we'll go back to our vanishing point here, but the foreshortening gets a little bit more extreme in our vision there. There and there is our thickness right in through. Maybe a little bit more right in through there. There's the end of the holder right in through there. It's a little bit thicker on the outside. We'll put just some quick marks here to show that it's got some ridges there, a little bit of interest there. So now we have a more foreshortened holder, and we know that the end of the lightsaber going away from us, the tip of it that's lit, that's energized, that's on, is right there. And then we can color that in if you want right here. A little bit thicker towards the handle, and it kind of thins out, if you will, about right there. So we have lightsaber now number 5 referenced over. So now we have 5 lightsabers. And remember, all of these forms are 4 feet in length, right? I really don't care right now about the height. Doesn't matter so much to me, as we're just referencing and moving over. But they're all, I'm going to say, we're saying 4 feet. So this distance moved over to here is 4 feet. Here we referenced over here 4 feet, right? 4 feet. This is 4 feet. Look at the distance now. These feel close together. Which one is further away? This one's much closer to us. It's here, but it's raised up closer to our eye line, to the horizon line. This one's much further away, pushed on the ground. That's important to continue to understand and to get the idea of depth and diminishment, and also size and scale. So that was lightsaber number 5. Let's do another one. Let's put another one up here, and I think we'll use this lightsaber as a key, or maybe we should just move this one up and over. Let's do that one now. So let's move lightsaber number 1 up really high. Yoda's going to do it, right? And so we're going to move this one here, And remember, we're always converging to that one central vanishing point. Rule number 1 in perspective. So all we have to do is raise now the scale of lightsaber number 1. Let me get a taller ruler too so we can see that. Maybe it's better to use one that's not so smoky so you can see that. Okay, there we go. Get that out of the way. And so we're now going to raise this up high. So see how I abut, I get my ruler nice and level, and then I take my T-square and we'll throw that line up. Same thing here, the edge of the lightsaber where it ends, that distance, we're going to throw it up pretty good now, pretty high. I got to really work hard to keep my head out of the way, so I'm going to move, try to do the best I can. Sometimes my head will be in the way and I'll get out of the way just as soon as I can. I've got to be able to see what I'm doing best I can. All right, so now we're going to move this lightsaber, this 4-foot lightsaber. Yoda's going to bring it up all the way above our eye level. Let's say we wanted about, I'm going to say the tip of it here, I want about right here, okay? So what about the back end? Well, that's easy. From the vanishing point, okay, out through, since we did not change the distance, we don't need a new referencing point. We use the same vanishing point. Right there out, right there is the end of the lightsaber. Okay, what about the end of the holder? Well, let's bring that up here and over to there. There feels pretty good. And I'll just mark it there. So we just raised everything. I'll put some arrows to show we're just raising that up right here and there. And there. We're levitating. It's being levitated by Yoda. All right. So now we are going back to the vanishing point. He's raised it up. And so you could even bring up the thicknesses if you wanted to. I didn't do that to simplify things a little bit, but there's the thickness of the end of the holder. Here's the thickness on the other side, diminishing towards the vanishing point. And then we come to the go back to the vanishing point, out of the vanishing point, however you want to think of it. Diminishing to or coming out of their line of vision. Here's a holder, edge, in through there. And so now we can take that and run that power, the light part of it, the coolest part of it, right back to the vanishing point. And now we know where to end it, where its thickness is here and here, and we're good to go. And we can finish it up right there. And now we have another depth dimension. So now we have lightsaber number what? 6, right? So we have 1, 2, 3. Brought this one over 4 to 5. Then we brought 6 up there. And so he's really moving lightsabers all over, showing us how to use the Force. So let's move a few now in space and use a little bit more, some more referencing points. So let's say that we want to bring another one, maybe put another one down here a little bit, but further away from us. So let's say we want one, let's say right here, we want this tip to be maybe right there and be even further away from us. So what we could do is do this and through there. So we have that. Okay, we can reference that. So we take our back point here, draw a line through this point, the end of the lightsaber, the new one, back to the horizon line, stop, and that becomes what? Reference point number 3. And you can see where you could do this all day. You could really reference. The next exercise, number 2, will be human figures. All right. So we take that reference point through there. And then from the reference point out to the tip of the end of the lightsaber to here, right in through there, and there we go. And so now we're really cooking in through there. So we have that, working for us. All right. So now we want to go back to our vanishing point. So from this point, the edge of the end of the lightsaber to the VP here, all the way through. Right, and there's the new end of our lightsaber right in through there. So we take the end of the holder in the front, back to the reference point. That's where you might get confused there. And there's the new front tip of the holder there. Back to the vanishing point and then out to portray that. And then we'll end that holder there. And now we have, it's very, very tiny, it's pretty far away. And we'll end that, it's probably the most distant one of all of them so far. And go back to the vanishing point in through here. And then we have our 4-foot lightsaber. So now we have lightsaber number 7 right in through there. So then we have 7 lightsabers that we've referenced. So using reference points, using very simple perspective to throw, position, and scale and move around. It's pretty powerful stuff. Let's do 1 or 2 more, I think, and then we'll move on to exercise number 2. Let's continue to bring up this, since we already have a couple of construction lines, distance lines. Let's move this lightsaber up. That will be 8, right? So that's 6, 7. This will be 8, okay? So all we need now, since our distance is brought up, is just a line from the vanishing point up. Since we're not changing it, it will be the same position that we had before, okay? And so we can bring this up even further. So let's do so here. There we go. At the end of that there's our holder right through there. I can mark it really quickly. And let's put the end of the lightsaber here, holder here. Going back to the vanishing point, you start to get a feel for it. Nice and foreshortened tube. Right there, there's the end of the tube. Then we have that ridged area. And there's another one there. I can kind of tone that down to show it's a slice of it. Okay, and then right there is the end of the lightsaber. How quick and easy is that? Pretty easy. Let's make this one red. We'll make it special, a little bit different. So Yoda's really moving it all over the place, and you could just continue on and practice this. Practice, once you get this technique down, practice it. Maybe use boxes or balls or spheres or other objects, toys, or you can draw little objects. All you need is that you need one line, one reference line, and then that can stand in for something, you know, much more challenging. I could even move Yoda around too. I'll do one time to kind of preface for for exercise number 2. So let's do one more lightsaber. Let's push one way over here. So maybe I'm thinking if I want this one to be over here, maybe a little bit, or maybe up higher. What if it was up higher? Let's see how that would work out. So let's see if I can get it on the paper. So let's say we want another one here, right? I may or may not be able to do it. Let's see how that goes. All right, so I want one there. And so now we can use, we want that could be we could say that's the front end. And so we'd run the front end out to the bottom tip here, draw a line through, back to the horizon line. This becomes a reference point. So that's reference point 4. So we'll put reference and we'll put 4 here, and then we'll run one out the lightsaber edge out and through here. Okay, well now we got a problem because it extends further out. So we'd have to crop it off the page. What it would look like if I kept going out and through here, I can just put a scratch piece of paper if I want. I can continue to scratch that out, or I can reference the front. That brings me in a little bit to help. Maybe we'd see that. So that's a little bit harder. I'm going to show you another technique in a little bit, how you can, if it's a little bit awkward, you can bring different measurements in to help. What would happen is we'd only see, since it's going to end about right there where I lined up my ruler, we'd only see about this much of the lightsaber. So I'm going to put that one in red, and we wouldn't even see the holder in our piece of paper. All we would see is that. So even cropping will help get the right scale. So all we're going to see, and that's probably one of the bigger ones that we've seen. There's the end of the lightsaber right in through there. So it's pretty high up now, above our head, and of course we're looking up to the lightsaber. And that's going to be number what? Number 9. So that's lightsaber number 9, which is pretty cropped off. Okay. And then lastly, let's move. Let me show you really quickly to preface exercise number 2, which will be referencing human forms, how easy we can move Yoda very quickly. So we can quantify his size very quickly into just one straight vertical line. Really easy. There's his height. And we can put it down below the robe here and the head here. And we can take that line. And what if we wanted to put another Yoda? Let's say we wanted to put Yoda, and he's only about 3 feet tall, maybe even less than that. Let's say. Let's say he's 3 feet here. So 3 feet there. What would 3 feet look like maybe right here? What would he look like? Well, we can use a referencing point. That's all we need. So if we want Yoda to sit down, let's say stand right here, I'll put a dot there. Then from the top and bottom, we'll say that's his bottom. I'll take my longer ruler, and then from the bottom of his robe here through the bottom of that point, and so make sure I can get him on. And I can get him on the paper. We can take a line, run it to the horizon line, and that becomes reference point number 5. So we've got that point now from the reference point back to the top of Yoda's head. Right through here, we draw a line through, right through there. And now we have, from our point here, a nice true vertical. Right here. There we are. Don't worry about that diagonal coming through. Right here, here's our vertical right in through there. That's a new height, or Yoda at 3 feet in distance. So if I draw another Yoda, maybe he's looking at us a little bit. And through here, there's some ears, and through here, we've got his head. Very simple kind of Yoda. We've got a little Yoda rag cloth thing, some feet in through here, maybe some hands coming out like so, down like so, whatever he's doing. And through here, that's Yoda now at 3 feet height. I'll tone him in a little bit so you can kind of see a little generic Yoda in through here. That is Yoda at 3 feet height in distance back there. So all I did, just like we did with our lightsabers that were laying down, we had an erect, standing tall Yoda, and we just used a referencing point to position him at a greater depth and distance. And there he is back there. And if we wanted to put him on the same plane back in through here, and there he would be at a much greater depth and distance at 3 feet tall as well. So there you go. Exercise number 1, referencing simple objects using very simple referencing points that really act like a vanishing point just for different objects. Okay, it really illustrates and highlights the rules of perspective, rule number 1 and rule number 2. Okay, let's go on now to exercise number 2. Exercise number 2. All right, exciting, a white piece of paper. No, it's going to be more than that, I promise. And we're going to now, with exercise 2, is reference human figures. We're going to do 6 stormtroopers, and each one of those stormtroopers are going to be 6 feet tall. So we're going to take, just like we did with our lightsabers, but now we're going to have figures, and I'll show you how you can reference figures all over. Very simple and very, very easily, quite frankly. There's nothing really, I think, that difficult about it, using the rules of perspective number 1 and again number 2, the rule of vanishing points and the rule of the vanishing point on a horizon line. Remember, we're now still in 1 point or 2 point, really, depending upon how our head swivels, and I'm just going to demarcate that with an arbitrary eye level horizon line that's not quite the center of the paper. I'll just put it about right here. We can move down a little bit. And so that is our eye line, which is also our horizon line. So we've got that there, okay? Now remember, that's our sky plane and that's our ground plane. And so the next step really is to, just like we did in exercise number 1, we're going to be repeating it now with a little bit more complexity. Exercise number 2. And let's establish our first human figure. And we want that figure to be 6 feet tall. All right, so, and we're going to say that our scale setting in, whatever we do, whatever length that we make our line, and wherever we set our figure in, that will be 6 feet tall in our composition. So we can kind of arbitrarily set it that way, and I'll show you what I mean by that. I won't even start with the vanishing point. I'm just going to start a 6 foot figure here. And I'm just going to say, okay, I think this figure at this distance would look good maybe at about right there. Maybe a little bit smaller. So I'm going to put a dot where I would start the head, and I would also start the feet where I'd put the feet in. So I'm going to erase that off just a little bit. Okay. So this is going to be figure number 1, and each of our figures will be 6 foot tall. So I'll write that down here. So each Stormtrooper, I'll just put an S. Each Stormtrooper is 6 feet tall. So they won't change. What will change is their depth and their distance from us. Okay? So I'm going to show you a couple things, just referencing a straight line, and then I'm going to do some drawing of the Stormtroopers as well. So let's put the next Stormtrooper, let's make him go away from us. So this is going to be 6 foot tall. It's really using just straight lines right now. So I think I want the next Stormtrooper to maybe be right here at 6 feet tall, right there. Okay. So now what I can do, that's the bottom, so I can line up my ruler, my hard edge, to that point there and align them, and where they break and meet the horizon line, our eye level, that will be reference point number 1. Then from reference point 1, you got it, back to the top of line, our first Stormtrooper right there, and that's going to be 6 feet of distance, diminishing to our first reference point, or it acts like a vanishing point. And then I'll put a straight line right here, here and here, and that's where our next Stormtrooper will be. All right, so now I'm going to draw the Stormtrooper. So I'm going to draw them in, sketch them in, and then when I come back, they'll emerge magically, right? And then we'll move on and reference some more. So if you don't like Stormtroopers or Star Wars, draw something else. You could draw Mary Poppins, or you could just draw generic human forms or whatever. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to use just the Star Wars theme, just as kind of what I'm going with. So 1 in Stormtrooper number 2. Okay, so when I come back, magically Stormtroopers will appear really quickly. All right, so now we see where I'm referencing here. Again, so we're coming back. I've got the first Stormtrooper drawn in at 6 feet tall. And now again, just how I demonstrated, we've got the next one now with the reference point 1. This will be a 6 foot tall Stormtrooper here now. So let me go ahead and draw that in so you can see that, and then we'll reference some more, and we'll get 6 foot figures in our composition. So I'll go for the next one. So I'll start to lay this in, and then I'll come back and we will reference some more. So I've almost got this finished. Now you can tell, I've got a nice 6 foot figure here and another 6 foot figure now in much greater distance away from us. It retains the same size. Now, one thing to note here is that they're not completely standing. Well, this one is standing straight up, so this one might be a little bit shorter than 6 feet. The idea here is to get a good relative size, but if you wanted to truly be completely accurate, these figures would have to be standing straight up to be completely 6 foot, but it's so close it really doesn't make much of a difference. What you want is good size and scale control of your figures in your composition, where to put them and where they go. I think that's very, very important. So let me just finish this out here. You can kind of watch a little bit. I'm just kind of roughing in the Stormtrooper here, and then we'll take a look, and then we'll start to put in our next figure here. So I'll kind of just shorthand everything in through here. We don't need a lot of detail for this one. That's something we can talk about. As they get closer, you can have even a lot more detail because in terms of kind of what Leonardo da Vinci said about atmospheric perspective, as objects recede, they get grayer, they get bluer, they get blurrier, and the contrast between their inherent properties, value, texture, everything gets diminished. Darker things get lighter, lighter things get a little bit darker or grayer, and so then they just don't retain their integrity. Try that sometime and go outside and then take photographs of friends or people and have them close to you, and then walk 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, meters, whatever, and go far away and look how, and they have, something on their shirt that's got detail or floral patterns or insignias or logos of your favorite team from your favorite sport, and see how diminished and less detailed that will get. It's pretty powerful too as well. So that goes along with the ideas of linear perspective, this idea of atmospheric perspective as well. Okay, so I've got my second figure in now, and so you can see where now we've started to reference again the 6 foot figure retains its 6 foot figure with another Stormtrooper in the back. So I believe since they were cloned, they all retain pretty much the same size. All right, so let's move on now to our next referenced figure. And I think what we'll do, let me move this out of the way a little bit, is bring one now pretty strongly forward. There's two ways we could do that. We have two that we could reference from. So if I want my next figure to be here, how am I going to achieve that? What's the best way to achieve that? Well, we've got two to work with. So I'm going to put, probably would be best to get the height of the figure first. So I think I'm going to make from, and I'm doing some kind of just calculating here, if I'm going to make this figure this height, I think I'll use that referencing point here, or I could use this one up. Maybe I'll use number 2. Maybe that'll be better. Yeah, I think it's even better. So we'll put the Stormtrooper number 3, we'll put its height here, right there. Okay, so we'll have that. And so what I'm going to do now is draw a line from the top of Stormtrooper number 2 and use that as a referencing point back to the horizon line here to there, and mark a point right there, and that will be reference point number 2. Okay, and then from the bottom of the 6 feet mark that we had, we'll start to work our way out. And let's see if I can fit him all on the same paper. So let me get my longer triangle here, brush that off a little bit, keep our craftsmanship nice and clean. Get a nice straight upright line for Stormtrooper number 3, right? And that's going to be 6 foot from our referencing point. So let's see how far I need to go, or if I've got enough space with the distance of this line. So from referencing point 2 now through the bottom of the foot out to here, I probably won't even, so he'll be cropped out. I think that's going to be okay, and that'll give us a little bit of cropping, so we won't get the entire figure in. So what I'll do is go from referencing point 2 through the foot, and you can kind of see where I've got this extra space down here. We'll go all the way down, and they won't even meet up until way past the end of my drawing board. No worries. So let's say, okay, I want the crop, I'll deal with the crop. That's not a bad thing. So I'll take him down, and through. That'll be fine. But what we can do is start to now reference a little bit of the body parts and see how much of him is going to be cropped out. This will actually work out pretty fine. So let's say from the helmet, I'll put a dot about right there, and so we can reference the helmet. So the helmet's going to be about right here. So that's how high the helmet will be, right in through this area. So he'll be fairly pretty big. Let's reference then where the waist will be. The waist will be, I'll put a dot about here where the start of the waist will be here, and I'll reference that. So this will help. So I'll put a little tiny W for the waist. This will be Stormtrooper number 3, and then the head will be here, H, and H for the helmet. Here's the waist, and let's try to just get it located with the knee. So the knee will be pretty far down, so we can reference to down from the knee, point of the knee, down to our new referencing line for our figure, and I'm just going to put a K right there for the knee. That's where the knee. So you can see now, right in through here, that's where we've got the knee, and the foot won't be down until really off screen. You can't even see my finger to be off screen. That's a good thing. I think even if you crop figures, I think I didn't really want it to work out that way, but I think it's actually important that it did, so you get an idea of even when you crop. Now, let's say you're doing a painting. This can happen really quickly. Let's say you're working in oil or acrylic and it's dried. You can use a little ruler and a tick mark. This can go really fast once you set this up. And so it doesn't have to be so methodical and meticulous. What we're using this for is to start to understand the rules of perspective, especially rule 1 and 2 in our beginning linear perspective lessons, but also how you can reference and get scale of a human figure and objects very, very quickly. And you don't even have to make these lines. I could have drawn a little mark here, or used a scratch piece of paper and made marks on there, and then put little ticks where I need a head to be and a foot to be, and you're really kind of good to go. It's really not really difficult, and you'll paint over, you'll draw over your marks. They can be very discreet and very, very subtle, and you've got scale, and you can impress all your friends. So I think that's pretty fascinating little bit of information. So what I want to do now is draw in this figure, and then we come back. What I'll do is we'll reference maybe figure number, Stormtrooper number 1 out to another distance as well. All right, so let me start drawing in our new figure here. So now I've got my referencing points for little areas of anatomy. Remember, we cropped out a little bit, so the knee ends right in through here. So I've got the helmet distance and through here. This one's going to be, this Stormtrooper is going to be kind of facing us, so he's tilted a little bit, which is fine. I've got the relative size that I need to work with, so I'll just kind of lay in just the bare bones gestural structure of this Stormtrooper in through here. And I'm just using photographs that I pulled off the web for that, just for help, just to get the look and feel of it. So we've got that. So we've got shoulder. So here's his waist. I know that's where I'm shooting for from the waist. This one's going to be here a little bit. Remember, he's 6 foot tall too, and so we're trying to keep this all in scale. So waist is in through here, shoulders and chest areas kind of right in through here. So now you have something to shoot for. And quite frankly, a lot of times I'm kind of glad this particular lesson worked out the way it did, because a lot of times aesthetically you want to crop. You can either crop here, or you could do a framing thing where you could bring the frame in later. But I think that's not a problem, in through here. So we have that coming through hand, arm, real quick kind of gestural thing, waist, into the waist, about right in through here. We got it right in through there, and then kind of the pelvis section in through here. So now we've got, the bottom of the knees roughly kind of in here. He might be standing. This might be a little bit longer than what I want, so I can kind of shorten up my figure, or I could elongate my figure, or I could move the knees up. That gives me a nice relative point to there, and I can move it up a little bit. I don't necessarily think you have to be complete, like the knees got to be on that line, but it's close enough to relate to it. And I think that in this case it's pretty important. Since he is changed a little bit and tilted over, that's going to change things a little bit. So don't be afraid of that. You don't have to be so rigid, but we're close enough in the ballpark that it works pretty well. So I've got knee here. This knee goes back in space. So I'm about an inch to a half an inch difference, and that's totally fine. So got a knee in through here, like so, and then we're coming down with the calf. So we'll miss just a little bit here, and we might even get the lower part of the foot coming down here, so I get a little bit, since there is a greater distance between the bottom of the foot down here, and I'm just going to give a little bit of expression down and through here. Now open it up and through there. Okay, so now we're kind of ready to go on. So I'm going to continue to go on and finish him out a little bit, and we'll expedite, and I'll give you some snippets of that as I'm drawing it. But I've got the major size components now of what I've wanted in through here. And again, we just referenced from 2 up, found our referencing point. I figured out where I want the height of my figure, reference back to, and then back out from the head to foot. And then we found different detail points, helmet, waist, relative knee, and through here to give us a better sense of putting all of it together. Okay, I'll be back with mostly finished Stormtrooper so we can reference some more. Okay, so we've got the Stormtrooper now, number 3, just kind of roughed in, laid in here. I'll add a little bit of a little background noise here or something just to give it a little bit of flavor. Getting through here, okay. A little atmosphere just to make it the focal point and through here. All right, so we've got him laid in now, so we've got 3 now. So now we can reference further in our composition. We need 3 more at 6 feet. So we've got him cropped off a little bit here down at the bottom. So let's jump in now and put another figure. So I think what we'll do is move then 1 over a little bit. Let's move 1 completely over so we can do that. So we can start to be a little bit more creative with our decision making. So I'll take my T-square and we'll move him over. So we'll draw reference lines through his top here, in here, over to here. And so we can put a figure here of about the same height. So if we draw now a line, let's see, here, that will give us figure number 4 right there. So that will give us Stormtrooper number 4 right in through here. Okay. So now if we want something a little bit larger, we could take 4 and reference from that and go a little bit larger out to here. Why don't we do that too? We'll put 4, we'll put the line for 4 and for 5 out. So if we want this Stormtrooper out a little bit further, so let's say we want the bottom. I'm thinking about setting up my reference point. So if I want the bottom here to be where our 6-foot Stormtrooper would fall or would stand here, we could say, come in and say, okay, right in through there and right up in through, it's almost on reference point 1. So it's just a little bit off. And let me make it, I'll make it red so it really shows up so you can see it coming through here and over to about right there. So that's reference point. That will actually be, we'll just call that 4. So I'll put 4 that, reference point 4. Then we'll come over and from the top of our Stormtrooper here, number 4, through reference point 4 right in through here, we'll draw through that and up and over. And now we've got room for another figure to come through. So now from our bottom of what our Stormtrooper will be here, we'll go up to, using our T-square and our triangle, up through here to the end of that line right in through there, and that will be another Stormtrooper at 6 foot there. That will be 5. So now we'll have 4 and we'll have 5 over. And let's go ahead and now pull in, and I'll go ahead and do 6, and we'll put 1 really, really small over. So for referencing figure number 6, let's use 1, and we'll work from his top here and the bottom, what I just did there, back to another referencing point right there. So that's going to be referencing point 5 in through there, and then we can put our next Stormtrooper. How far back do we want him? We can put him We have options. We can put it there. I'll give you a couple of options. One there, you can do one here, or you could do one there, or you could even get further away and put another one. And so you have many different options to choose from, depending on your distance. I think we'll put the last one, number 6. So the 4 and 5 will be here, and then this is reference point 5, and then Stormtrooper number 6 will be through here. So let's do that now. Let's draw them in. And I'll rough them in pretty quickly, and we'll have our full composition. And we can go on and wrap that up, and then take a look at what we did, and go on to the next one. Okay, so I'm going to lay in 4, figure number 4 a little bit, and it's going to be from the back. So he's going to have our back turned towards us, or he's looking away from us, rather, either way. And so again, this is 6 feet tall, right in through here. So we'll start to lay in his headgear, in through here. Just kind of getting a general gestural lay in where we can get all our figures through here. And then calf right in through here, downward into the... Alright, finishing up 4 here. So just putting on the last round of armor here on this roughed in figure, and let's now take a look at our composition, excuse me, now overall, and take a look and see how we're doing. So now we've got 4 figures in, and we've already referenced everything that we're going to put in. So remember, we've got 4 here. We brought from 4, we use that to bringing 1 straight across. Now you notice that the height didn't really change in our perception because we just moved him straight across. If we move up and down or straight across, we can lock in that relative height. But anytime we move backwards or forwards, we've got a depth issue, and we need a reference point for that. We used figure 4 now to get 5. So we determined from 4, we drew a line back to the top and bottom, back to reference point 4 in red there, right there. And then we came out and determined this is what we wanted for our figure number 5. And that's where I'm going to draw next. So I'll put in another Stormtrooper there. And then just to refresh, over here on 6, we used the number 1 figure. And we drew a line from the foot line to the foot point and to the top of the helmet back to reference point here for reference point 5, and then that's determined which is straight line where they meet. Several figures. We might put 6 here certainly, and then you can put more than you want. You could come forward and put a figure right in through here if you wanted another one. Then it starts to get a little bit crowded. We start to run out of space. So now I want to go on and work with number 5 here, and let's put him in. So we'll finish 5, and then we'll go on to figure 6, and then we'll wrap it up, and then go on to our exercise, I believe number 3. All right, so let's start that. All right, so let me quickly gesturally lay in figure number 5. So he'll face us forward a little bit. We'll be able to look at him from his front side. So now we could reference our helmet. If I just sketch that out right in through here, right? And if we reference the waist right in through here, look how quick I can do that. See how simple you can do that even freehand from a referencing point, and knees will be about right in through here, and we can start to get a feel for that head and the helmet. And then if you get it off a little bit, don't worry, you'll be close enough into your drawing that you can just make some tweaks and changes a little bit, and you'll be fine for that. So we've got gesture of the helmet through here, shoulders coming in through here, over, and then we can start to lay in his torso and through here. So there's the waist right in through there, and then we can get to the pelvic region in through there. Got that. So knees about right in through, feel pretty comfortable right in through here, coming over. Just kind of in a stationary position. None of these are too terribly active. And then we've got the leg coming down here. That'll be a little bit longer than what I've got, and that's fine. So here, and then calf coming down to the foot, and then foot over and through here. So it just gives us a general reference, which is I'm totally okay with. So coming down here, gesturing in, the knee, kneecap, and then the leg coming down. This will fit into the foot about right through here and over. And that gives us kind of the starting point to kind of rough in, finish the rough in of our figure. Let me get the top of it here. Shoulder, arm coming out through here. Just a quick light gesture, just to get a feel for it. Hand will be right in through here. The other hand over and through here, holding, I believe, just a weapon. And through here and over, and then down through. All right, so there's the gesture for figure 5. So now I'll start in, and I'll start to make it concrete. So you can see we're relatively within our nice boundary range. So it's a little bit shorter, but it's okay too as well. All right, so let me start fleshing in this out tighter. So finishing up now this Stormtrooper number 5, and now I think we're ready to go on to number 6. He feels like he's finished enough for our lecture here, our demonstration, and now let's move on to the last one. So the last few, you remember, put that out of the way, are over here now. So we referenced from number 1 back to a reference point. We took the height line of our figure from head to toe back to reference point 5, and now we've got room for 1, 2, 3, 4, and you could even put more in there if you wanted to. And so I'll probably just repeat these and put these kind of in a line. I'll just maybe repeat this particular figure and do it 1, 2, 3, 4 more times as if they're in some kind of ordered fashion, and then we can even control a little further. Remember where the size of the helmet, the shoulders maybe, or the waist. So from about the end of the helmet, which is really almost on the horizon line, so we can keep that and just use that horizon line, and then we can say maybe the pectorals where the chest ends would be here, and then maybe where the waist ends is there, the knees would be roughly about right here on over. And so you get the idea where you can proportion and help yourself out in this simple kind of diagram. So let me sharpen up my pencil a little bit over here, get that nice and cleaned up and sharp. And so we're almost there in our composition. And so I'll just use this Stormtrooper as my reference guide for the last couple. And now so I'll lay in just gesturally the helmet in through here. It's kind of a bell shape. In through here, really simple kind of diagram. In through there. And so I'm kind of going to look down here kind of where the waist is. Waist is going to be about ending right in through here where the pelvic region is. Then we're going to simplify these even further down like so, and then legs, and then feet coming over and out and over. Leg coming out here, and so we've just repeated figure 6 a little bit here, kind of roughly, and then through here to his chest and over. And we'll just kind of put these in kind of a shadow tone a little bit just to kind of simplify them even further. So we've got that one back in space, and then another one back here. I'll just kind of get the outline, keep it real simple, and I could start to even overlap them a little bit, and you get the idea. And through there, and then now it just becomes just a block in tone. And through here, and a couple of just symbols right in through there, so they get more simple as we get a little further along, and keep them to feel as if they're nice and going back in space. All right, so there we go. So we have 6 plus figures. I guess it wound up being 10 Stormtroopers now referenced from our first size, which we called this Stormtrooper 6 feet. So all of these figures, what's important to know about this lesson, this exercise, is that all of them are 6 feet tall, and we used one. Once we got a size and relationship that we wanted, then we said, okay, I'm going to reference this figure. I can use this size and reference it all over. So we took from 1 and we found 2. Here's our reference point number 1. That was 2. And then from 2 we came over and found 3, right? We came over and got 3 and we had to crop out a little bit. Then from 1 we moved over to 4. So 1 and 4, Stormtrooper 1 is the same size as 4, but look how we flipped his point of his positioning in relationship to our viewpoint. He's now back towards us, and we have this one looking at us. And then from number 4, we got figure 5 by referencing point number 4 through here. And then of course from 6, 7, 8, and I guess there's 9 actually. 9 Stormtroopers. Here, I'll put 9 down there. We got that from number 6, drew back from head to toe a distance line or a measuring line, if you will, or height line, probably better to say, all the way back to reference point 5, and we got figure 6, 7, 8, and 9 out of that. And of course you could continue on, you could keep going. Also at this point in time, if you wanted to draw more figures back here without going through all the mumbo jumbo, which is really not that much anyway, you could kind of pick up a relative size. You could bring this one, or you could bring 8 over to here, and you'd feel like it was over about right through here. Maybe I'll just show you right quickly. You could bring 8 over, and could be another Stormtrooper back here about this size. And you could be very, very, very subtle with your drawing. Didn't take a lot of effort just to put a couple of marks just to get some figures back there, and you get the idea. And so now you can do this and confidently reference the size. You know, if you wanted a Stormtrooper standing here and it was this tall, you know it would be much too large now. So perspective. Formal perspective, linear perspective, teaches you how to be disciplined instructor and instructs you how to be accurate, but hopefully, obviously, very creative at the same time, which is what we want. And it tells you with pretty much confidence and ease where I can put new figures in my composition with some relative confidence about their sizing. In their shape, I suppose, but where they're located in space relative to one another. Okay, so there you go. So now we're going to go on to exercise number 3.